In a certain German town, it's still considered unusual to look someone directly in the eyes at first. Here, people look down at your shoes, because from them, you can tell who you're dealing with, a friend or an enemy. Yes, in the 21st century, in the heart of Europe, people are still divided by sneakers, Adidas or Puma. And this habit isn't just a nod to fashion. It's the legacy of a family war that began almost 100 years ago between two brothers. The story you're about to hear isn't about fashion. It's not about sports. It's a story of hatred, betrayal, and two men who could never forgive each other's success. One of them entered Hitler's inner circle. The other signed a contract with Jesse Owens to humiliate Nazi propaganda in front of the entire world. Together, they built an empire, and then they burned it down. The first was Adolf Dassler. They called him Adi. The second, Rudolf. At home, he was known as Rudy. Both were born at the start of the 20th century. Rudy first, Adi 2 years later. They grew up in a modest family in the tiny town of Herzogenaurach. Their father repaired shoes, their mother ran a laundry. From an early age, the boys helped, delivering clean clothes to the neighbors. For this, they were nicknamed the Laundry Boys. Adi stitched his first shoes in his mother's shed. There was no money for electricity, so one day he attached a leather cutter to a bicycle. While one pedaled, the other stitched. He gathered pieces of parachutes, old army helmets, any scrap of fabric, anything he could find among the ruins after the First World War. He was obsessed with the idea of creating the perfect sports cleats. At that time, no one even considered that each sport might require its own type of shoe. That's when he saw the opportunity. Footwear tailored for running, football, jumping. Studs, grip, lightness. Nobody thought about that except him. Rudy was different. Outgoing, ambitious, quick-witted. He understood that his brother had talent, but without him, that talent would never sell. And that's exactly how it went. Adi made, Rudy sold. In 1924, they officially founded the family business, the Dassler Brothers Sports Shoe Company. They were like two wings of one machine. But the faster that machine ran, the louder its engine roared. And that roar was a warning of destruction. By the late 1930s, their shoes were being worn all over Germany. Everything pointed to the brothers building an empire. But fate had other plans. When the Nazis came to power, everything, from art to sports, was brought under state ideology. To continue operating, businessmen had to either cooperate or disappear. And the brothers chose to cooperate, formally and out of fear. In reality, because it opened new doors. They both joined the party, but their roles in it were different. Rudy was active, loud, ideologically involved. He supported the Nazis not just with words, but in deeds. Rumor had it he even had ties to the SS. Adi, by contrast, kept a lower profile, but he wasn't just a bystander either. For example, he was active in the Hitler Youth movement and received orders from the army. When Germany was preparing for the 1936 Olympics, Adi saw a unique opportunity. These were the first games to be broadcast on television. He knew, if any of the medalists wore their shoes, it would be an advertisement to the entire world. And he chose the most controversial yet strongest candidate, Jesse Owens, an African American, a face that completely contradicted Nazi propaganda, a hero that Hitler did not want to see on the podium. And it was to him that Adi gave a pair of his cleats, for free, simply because he knew Jesse would win. And Jesse did win, 4 gold medals, and on each one, the Dassler Brothers logo. It was a blow to the ideology of the Third Reich, and a huge leap for business. Orders began pouring in from all over the world. But with them came something that the brothers' business would never recover from: envy. Rudy started to believe that all the glory went to Adi, that Adi was playing his own game behind his back, that he was becoming the face of the company, while Rudy was just a manager. And from there, the first arguments began. They no longer simply disagreed about business. They began to hate each other. They lived in the same house. Their wives didn't speak. And in the basement, during one of the bombings, an episode occurred that would destroy everything for good. When Adi and his wife went down into the shelter, he saw Rudy there and said, "Those bastards are back again." Adi would later say he meant the Allies dropping bombs, but Rudy believed it was about him and his wife. From that moment, they became enemies. A few months later, Rudy left for the front, and Adi stayed behind to run the factory, which was now producing shoes and tank components. And this is when Rudy struck his first real blow. He denounced his brother. He sent a complaint to the Nazi office, accusing Adi of hoarding leather meant for the army. Adi was arrested. He was interrogated. He was released. But he remembered. After the war, things became even darker. The Allies began denazification. the search for those guilty of crimes under the regime. Rudi was sent to a prisoner of war camp. Adi was put on trial as a suspect in wartime profiteering. And now it was Rudi who wrote a denunciation against his brother to the Americans. Neither of them was found guilty, but their relationship died forever. After all the denunciations, arrests, and personal accusations, it was clear there was no going back. At the end of 1948, the brothers officially split the company, with just one condition: each would leave for good and build his business from scratch. Adi took the technical experts, the seamstresses, the designers. Rudi, the salesmen and agents. Adi named his company Adidas, combining the first syllables of his first and last name. Rudi initially wanted to name his firm Ruda, but later reconsidered and chose the name Puma. That's how a new chapter began. No longer a family feud, but a corporate rivalry with no rules. But when the brothers parted ways, it wasn't just the business that split. The town divided too. The river that ran through Herzogenaurach became a symbolic front line. On one bank, the Adidas headquarters. On the other, Puma. Schools, shops, stadiums. Everything was divided based on brand allegiance. Families broke apart. Friendships ended. People stopped greeting each other in the streets if they saw the other was wearing the wrong sneakers. Soon the town earned a nickname, the town of bent necks. Because before speaking to anyone here, people first looked down at their shoes. From them, you could tell who you were dealing with, one of us or the other. The mayor of the town once even showed up to an official meeting wearing one Adidas shoe and one Puma. It was the only way to remain neutral. But the brothers had no intention of stopping. They launched a race. Who would become the #1 brand? And the stakes were high. In the early 1950s, Adi made the first powerful move. He offered the West German national football team exclusive footwear with adjustable studs. These were the first cleats in the world where the length of the studs could be changed depending on the weather. At the 1954 World Cup in Bern, it rained. The field was wet and slippery. The Hungarians, the tournament favorites, struggled. But the Germans, in Adidas cleats, stood firm. They won. A victory later called the Miracle of Bern. And in every photo, white stripes on the players' cleats. The iconic 3 stripes. Adidas's success was staggering. And Rudi, he was furious. He believed this was his chance. He knew the national team's coach had offered him a contract, but they couldn't agree on the price. He hoped the coach would change his mind. He didn't. What followed was another scandal, the Olympics in Melbourne. A shipment of Puma shoes didn't clear customs. Adidas did. Rumors swirled that bribes were involved. Rudi was convinced Adi had paid off officials. No proof was ever found. But nothing was disproven either. One move after another, one sabotage after the next. Neither brother wanted to just make money. They wanted to destroy each other. By the 1960s, the Dassler brothers' feud had become an international advertising war. And now their sons entered the battlefield. Adi passed control to his son Horst. Rudi, to his heir, Armin. One might think the new generation could end the rivalry. But the opposite happened. They inherited not only the business, but also the hatred. Both companies launched an aggressive race to sign sports stars. Millions of Deutsche Marks were spent to sign Olympians, footballers, athletes. Money was spent recklessly, on the edge of bankruptcy. And then, on the eve of the 1970 World Cup in Mexico, both sides had their eyes on one man, Pelé, a legend, a man whose name was known across the entire planet. He was the kind of figure who could turn any brand into an icon. There was just one problem. If one side started negotiating with Pelé, the other would immediately raise the offer. And so it would go, endlessly. That's why Horst and Armin made a secret agreement. Pelé was off limits. Neither of them would sign him. A silent pact. But on the day of the quarterfinal, cameras from around the world turned to the field. Pelé stood up, spoke to the referee, crouched down, and began tying his shoelaces. Millions of viewers around the globe saw the Puma logo. All it took was a few seconds. Puma won the most expensive advertisement in history. It turned out Armin had broken the pact. He secretly signed Pelé, paid him more than $125,000, and convinced him to stop the game so the whole world could see the shoes. It was a total triumph for Puma, and another blow to Adidas. After that, the war got dirtier. Accusations, bribes, leaks, sabotage. But time passed, and time spares no one. In the 1970s and 1980s, both brands began to weaken. Horst and Armin overestimated the power of sponsorship and forgot that, above all, brands survive through quality. Adidas nearly depleted its resources buying up every possible athlete. Puma tried to catch up in scale and failed in quality. By the end of the 1980s, both companies were on the brink of bankruptcy. The brothers were already dead, and symbolically, they were buried in the same cemetery. But at opposite ends, even in death, they remained enemies. Adidas was purchased by Swiss billionaire Robert Louis Dreyfus. He bet on image, brought in young athletes, launched innovative designs, acquired Reebok, and created the Yeezy line with Kanye West. Adidas got back in the game. Puma, in turn, was taken over by young German businessman Jochen Zeitz. He chose a different strategy: niches, design, subcultures, deals with Formula One, a contract with Usain Bolt, creative work with Rihanna. Puma became trendy again, though not mainstream. It chose its own path. Today, Adidas and Puma are no longer owned by the Dassler family. In 2009, the companies organized a symbolic match between their employees to officially end the rivalry. The CEOs of both companies even played on the same team, but Herzogenaurach remains divided. The factories still stand on opposite sides of the river, and when a local steps out into the street, they still glance down at a passerby's shoes. Because history remembers, and if the two brothers had never split their empire, perhaps Nike would have never become #1. Thanks for watching. If this story seemed as wild and gripping to you as it did to us, don't forget to subscribe. There are more exposés, hidden truths, and dark sides of the world's most admired icons ahead. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next.